Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Happy Halloween, Lock Shoppers. What is up? Welcome to the program. Dusty still on the DL. Huss and Cowboy Pete Greggy. You got the Phil Rivers bolo tie today. Shout out to Philip and all of his kids. What's going on? How are you?
It's the Coolbet Cowboy, I guess you could call me today. I'm looking to wrangle in some winners. Huss, great night last night. Looked like you guys had down at BP. It was an even better night for you guys. The WST parlay cashed, but something that everyone, I think, or most people, maybe not Madawana, can agree. Seeing the Yankees blow that lead and end their season just was the cherry on the top for my evening last night.
Yeah, we had an absolute blast, and a shout out to everyone that popped by. See a few of the folks, although we missed Matt Hyman, who's a Lock Shop regular. He said, I was having major FOMO seeing everything. We'll have to get down to the next one. And yeah, listen, Jet game was awesome. They jumped out after the loss to the Leafs, had a great start. All this talk about, they have to change up the lines. They're 8-1. Boom, they roll them. And Connor, Scheifele, Velarde were huge, especially in that first period. And like we talked yesterday, the homecoming angle was a good one. Hellebuck was awesome. I mean, the two power play shots that beat him were deflections. I mean, you weren't going to get those, but shut the door, got the under 2.5. And obviously, Connor got the goal early on. So we had a great time. It was fun. And then the game finished, and we got right into the seventh inning and saw the Dodgers come back and beat the Yankees. I will say this. I kind of wanted the Yankees to win just so we would get a game 6. Because, I mean, this, even though I'm not really a big fan of either team, and I kind of don't like the fact that you just throw more money than everyone else in, and you end up in the World Series, but two star-studded lineups, and it was a pretty awesome World Series that had a lot, but listen, the Dodgers were the better team. I was actually starting to feel bad for Aaron Judge. I really was. And at least for him, he can go into the offseason knowing that he did something in one of the games in the World Series. But this was a stacked Dodger team that just was pretty much relentless, and no drama as to who the MVP was going to be after what Freddie Freeman did, really, in game 1 and throughout the series. Last night was the only time he didn't go yard in the entire World Series.
And he still had a really big single I believe was to tie up the game or bring them within one. I think it was the tying one because Teo hit that other single shot there for them to take the lead. With Judge, man, like, he took one step forward, obviously had that absolute nuke, which I hope you bet on last night. I know you were thinking about it when talking to Jake yesterday. So he opens up the game, huge home run, absolute, like, just a no-doubter. And then, he starts playing better. But that fielding error, like, you got to feel for Garrett Cole, man. 5 unearned because of that.
Well, we flipped over from the game. And I had the over 17.5 pitching outs. And we're into the 7th. So he's pitching. Like, awesome. And then realized, like, he gave up 5 runs in an inning. Like, what the heck happened? And again, we were watching the hockey game. We dug in a little deeper. Oh, well, there was 3 errors in the same inning. They were all earned runs.
Well, one of them was his error by not, I don't know if they actually charged him with the error or if it was the first baseman, but just like baseball 101, not covering up first, especially with the bases juiced. Just a boneheaded play by him, miscommunication between him and the first baseman. But yes, you know what? I got to say, I would have enjoyed this series to go a little bit longer. Maybe if it was like just a back and forth, 5-4 final and there wasn't all this drama. Yeah. Once the Aaron Judge drop in the outfield, the error happened. There was nothing more that I wanted was a Dodgers win. Of course, I would have loved to see the Yankees come all the way back to 7 and then ultimately the Dodgers win. I think that would have been best case scenario. But to see them melt it down once again, unbelievable. They were up 5-0 at one point and just kind of went away. But yeah, you gotta tip your cap to the Dodgers. I mean, that's an impressive roster. Freddie Freeman, we've embraced him as a Canadian. He's proud to play for Canada at the World Baseball Classic. His mom actually was not too far away from where I am, up in Peterborough. So a lot of folks out this way are huge Freddie Freeman fans. You can even see him talking to Hazel May after the game. Like, this was a special win for him. He's already got a World Series victory, but he becomes a short list of guys that have won an MVP in the regular season and a World Series MVP. Like, this guy is a special talent, and for Canada to be able to claim as kind of one of our own, I absolutely love it, especially considering the stuff he had to go through with that ankle. Like, we weren't even sure if we were going to see him all that much during this playoff run. He was, resting up, but come the World Series, man, put the cape on, and he was unreal. I remember the circumstances surrounding him going to LA, and, the Braves just weren't giving him what his agent wanted, and they end up taking the money. And remember, he had that terrible start. It seemed like he really regretted moving to LA. Not so much anymore now that he's got it done. Listen to this. I just pulled up the dossier. 8-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ. He was the NL MVP in 2020, the World Series MVP this year, 2-time first team All MVP, 3-time second, Gold Glove, 3 Silver Sluggers. What an incredible career that he's had, and he's a really likable guy too. So there's that Canadian connection on Freddie Freeman. I'm interested, and I know Jake's in the chat. Jake, you can fire this in there as well. But from a Jays fan perspective, how does it feel to see Teoscar Hernandez batting cleanup for the World Series champions, for a team that just could not hit, had no hitting for power, couldn't count on pretty much anyone outside Vladdy last year? Just feels like there was a guy that loved Toronto, that fans loved him, that one that got away. Culture killer. Give me a break, man. That will always haunt me in my dreams. The fact they let those guys go because they wanted more of a uptight business approach in that locker room. And 2 years later, not even a year and a half later, the home run jacket comes back and they want to play loose. Like, what are we doing here? You want to talk about impressive resumes? Freddie Freeman, no doubt, unbelievable. We'll see how much longer he can do this. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. He's probably, he's the first Team Canada member to win a World Series MVP, but a guy that I think you can already etch his name into the Hall of Fame, Mookie Betts. I cannot believe I saw this tweet. I think it was this morning. His resume now is 3-time World Series champ, 2018 MVP, 8 times All-Star, 8-time Gold Glover winner, 6-time Silver Slugger winner. That is after 11 seasons of play. That is unbelievable. And the best part about it, as a Blue Jays fan, he is going to go into the Hall of Fame wearing a Dodgers hat and not a Red Sox hat. Never mind that. He haunts the Red Sox every single time he takes the field. Yep. I mean, if you know any Red Sox fans, they are still bitter about the fact that they let that guy get away. And it seems like everyone's ended up there. Obviously, Ohtani, who didn't have to do much and didn't do much. Obviously, he was nicked up a little bit. Jake and the thing, like Freddie Freeman, Hall of Fame. I mean, he's 35 right now. He's going to have probably a good 3-4 more years. I mean, he's got 343 home runs, a career batting average of 300. He's at 2,267 hits. So, I mean, you're going to think he's getting 2,500 for sure. I don't know whether he gets to the 3,000 mark. But, add in those MVP awards, both in the regular season and the playoffs, the rings that he's had. He might get some consideration. Still probably some work to do. The baseball hall is the one that is probably the most notoriously difficult to get into, but still quite the run. And now we move on to the offseason. Everyone's tied for first again. Interested to see what the Blue Jays do
try to get back to respectability, because it's great that you've done all the renovations to the ballpark and the loony dogs and all that, but at a certain time, the fans are expecting a team to win some football or to win some baseball games, and they didn't do enough of that. We got a lot to get to. We got a very interesting Thursday nighter tonight, which we'll probably get into in the second half of the program. We mentioned yesterday we had a nice run with the Jets and the WST parlay. There was some interesting games last night. Shout out to Jake. We were sitting there trying to build our parlay, and we were going back and forth on this Islanders Blue Jackets game. And we were kind of putting out the case for both sides. We ended up settling on the Blue Jackets after a passion speech supporting Columbus from Jake, and they came through 2-0, which was nice. What wasn't nice was our other picks were the Golden Knights and the Canucks, who both got absolutely stomped last night. And I was thinking that the worst result of the night would be maybe Calgary getting pumped by Utah, or Vegas giving up 6 and a 6-3 loss. But holy smokes, you want to talk about a no-show in a game that you would have thought the Canucks would have been very much up for, with their captain Quinn Hughes going up against his brothers. This was, if this was a boxing match, they would have thrown in the towel after a couple of periods. I mean, New Jersey just absolutely barnstorming Vancouver, and the Canucks suffering by far their worst loss of the season.
Yeah, that was a shocking one. That was very shocking. I rode the, I think it's I forget what it is, the National Hughes League parlay that we had up in the exclusives. It was a Jack Hughes goal, a point for the other two Hughes brothers. Maybe it was an assist. And anyways, I thought Quinn Hughes to get an assist was going to be the easiest of the three. And Vancouver gets completely skunked. And this is a Devils team that, quite frankly, I know they're still 7-4, but they're a team that has struggled to defend. Like a couple games ago, they lose 5-3 to Detroit. They get 8 put on them against Tampa. I think the Caps put 6 on them. They lost 4-3 the Devils. So maybe we could have read into it a little more that obviously their new coach Sheldon Keefe, who spent his entire Leafs career trying to figure out a way to get guys to be a little bit. Yeah, Jake's Jake is for sure missing Keefe. We all know that. Maybe we could have expected that after that 6-2 victory over the Ducks that, they were going to really try to dig in here and continue to play defensive responsibility. I don't even know necessarily, though. I didn't watch a ton of the game. I was trying to flip back and forth because I was, really dialed into that baseball game, obviously. I don't know necessarily if it was more like the Devils just looked so well, or if it was just an absolute stink fest from the Canucks who, like you said, there had to been money on the board for their captain to come out with a victory and have a big night for their captain.
Rod Z. I always love the Rod Z stats. What do we have here? Islanders are now 1-11 in the second half of back-to-back. And that doesn't even count the fact that the first half of the back-to-back was a home loss to the Ducks.
Yeah.
And Vegas 0-6 after 3 home games. That was a stat maybe we should have looked at yesterday when we backed them, because it was, as I said, I was there in Vegas on the weekend, and they played the Friday afternoon against Ottawa. That was the comeback win. They smashed the Sharks the next night. On Saturday, and then they shut out Calgary on Monday. It seemed like they were rolling, and you look at the top of the scoring leaders, there's Mark Stone, there's Jack Eichel, but credit to the Kings. And who, there was a lot of focus. We had that game on one of the other TVs while we were watching the World Series after the Jets beat the Wings, and they were focusing in on Kevin Fiala quite a bit, who, of course, was benched yesterday because he missed a meeting, but he got back into the lineup last night and seemed to give the Kings a pretty good boost. Kopitar looked awesome last night. It's amazing he's still getting it done at his age. He's still an elite two-way center and can still score. A goal and 2 assists last night for him, and Fiala getting out of the doghouse with 1-1 last night. So nice win for the Kings. Point back to Vegas.
You know who I really liked, not just last night, but early parts of this season, is that Brandt Clark kid. Did you see that assist? The
Oh my God.
spinorama that he had? That kid is disgusting. Finished with 3 apples. I've got my eyes on this kid to definitely sprinkle in some player props, some assist props, some point props. The guy is electric to watch. I've been really enjoying watching him play for the Kings.
21 years old. A goal and 10 assists for 11 points right now. He does seem like they've got sort of a bit of a jewel there. And listen, everyone thought that the Kings, on their rebuild had so much young talent. Obviously, they made that massive trade with Winnipeg to get Pierre-Luc Dubois, and it sort of just blew up in their faces, and they punted on that. And moved on from it. So they're going to lean on some of these younger guys to come in and be that next generation that pushes this team through. And listen, they need a lot from the top guys like the Fialas, like the Kopitars, but man, Brandt Clark has looked good so far. Let's take a look at the slate tonight in the National Hockey League before we get to Thursday night football. And, let's start off with this first game. And I know anyone from Winnipeg in the chat is going to be pulling for the Oilers tonight. They are in Nashville to take on the Predators. And it is disappointing. I mean, every time when Dusty and I are talking on this program about the Oilers at Preds, we talk about Draisaitl and his numbers. I mean, he averages like 2.5 points a game or something like that. I'm really interested to see how they look without 97. I mean, the best player in the world. And this is a huge opportunity for Leon, I believe. We know that Connor's the captain and the leader, but, on any other team in the NHL, Draisaitl might very well be that guy. And listen, the Oilers are a veteran team. We've talked about, how old they are. I mean, they lost some of the younger players. I mean, I think these guys, to a man, know what needs to be done. And, how they can get by without their captain over the next little bit, I think is going to be hugely impactful as to where they're at and, what their stakes are later on in the season. If you go 0-6 or something like that when Connor's out of the lineup, I mean, you're back into last year territory where you're playing catch up, you're under the playoff line, and so no one thinks this team's going to miss the playoffs. But, I think they would love to put themselves in a situation, Pat, where in the last month of the season, they maybe can give Connor a night off or two, and Leon as well. So this challenge tonight, going into a place where they've been historically great, they're plus 113 underdogs. The Preds, who have not been great so far this season, minus 133. Like, if you do believe in the rest of the Oiler team and Draisaitl to be a guy that can step up and take over, this is a pretty nice chance because we don't often see the Oilers with a plus number beside them at all. But that's going to be the case for the next couple of weeks with 97 on the shelf.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it on the head. This is a massive opportunity for Draisaitl to prove that he's not just Connor McDavid's running man. He's not Robin to Batman. Like, he is his other. They're more like the Avengers than a sidekick. And you mentioned the career numbers that Draisaitl has against the Predators. 25 goals in 27 games played against the Preds. I'm 100% sprinkling a goal prop for him. I probably will build some sort of same game parlay with the Oilers to win. Even though, like I said, I don't love betting on the Oilers without 97 in the lineup. We know he is the heartbeat, but this is a big moment for Draisaitl to prove that it's more than just 97 when it comes to this team. And we're getting plus money on it. There haven't been too many opportunities this year or within the last couple of years that we've been even able to bet the Oilers at plus money. So looks like Picard's in net for the Oilers. UC Saros is unconfirmed right now. So don't know if that changes anyone's mind.
I'm just pulling up the lines here. And I'm sure they've probably gone over this at some point. Talking Oilers all day on EST, but for people that have just jumped into the lock shop and maybe looking at an angle on a same gamer or something like that, Nuge, it looks like Nuge is going to be in the middle of Jeff Skinner and Zach Hyman. And then Draisaitl will have Victor Arvidsson on his right side and Podkolzin. He's a guy that, honestly, out of the market, we don't think about too much. Just looking at player point numbers here. And if you go down, actually, I'm not sure that Podkolzin is even on the list right now. Here's what we've got for Oiler points. Listen, 1 for Draisaitl is minus 242, like over 1.5 plus 205. Zach Hyman's at minus 136, Nuge minus 127. This is all just for 1 point. Ekholm minus 102, Arvidsson at plus 104 for a point. I mean, listen, that might be a nice little angle with him playing alongside Leon Draisaitl. Let's just quickly look at what their power play unit looks like. Nuge, Draisaitl, Hyman, Bouchard, and Ekholm is the first power play unit. And man, the losing 97, what that does to the other unit as well. I mean, Perry, Adam Henrique, Arvidsson, Skinner, and Darnell Nurse. They'll probably be, and I mean, this is a team that normally leaves their first power play unit out for close to 2 minutes anyways. I don't imagine that will change right now with the way things are. So whole bunch of Oiler props out for this game. I'm just hoping they can win this game and hand the Preds another loss. The Leafs, after their big win in the Peg, back at home, taking on the Seattle Kraken. And of course, we had to talk about the Kraken again and remind me that I thought that the Habs might have a nice shot as a home dog against them, and then proceeded to give up a snowman 8 spot to it. Where are the Leafs right now after the win? I mean, a pretty good start so far right now. And I mean, building, obviously coming off that win. Their issue was, and I know it was nervous moments when the game got tight after that 4-0 loss. But sometimes games like that, after you blew a lead and lost to Boston earlier on, can actually be really good for a team in the short term moving forward into these upcoming games. And that's why they're a minus 200 favorite against Seattle tonight.
Yeah, they were desperate. They needed that win against the Jets. We saw them hit the blender. First time Berube really switched things up on the power play, broke up the 2 units, but then also broke up a couple of lines. And we saw Pacioretty with a big game, 4 points. John Tavares had 3 points or 3 goals, and William Nylander had 3 points on that line. I expect to see those guys still together. Obviously, the big line with Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, and Matthew Nyes, who, I mean, is off to a really streaking start. Be interested to see what his props look like, because I might lean to him because he has been on fire on that first line. The temperature in Leafland, it's kind of a game-by-game approach. I think they're feeling a lot better about themselves after that 6-4 win over a really good Jets team. But again, can you keep that? Can you keep that compete? Can you keep that buy-in to the little things that, Craig Berube continues to push with this team? I think the defensive unit has looked significantly better than what they have over the last couple of years. Just secondary scoring continues to be a point of concern for this group. And I think that's something that they're kind of trying to figure things out while a couple of guys are on the shelf. So looking at this here from a betting angle, of course, minus 200, I would never, ever consider betting that at that juice. But I do think that there are some prop opportunities here. Like I said, maybe nice. Looking at this, I think it's going to be Joseph Woll starting tonight. That's a massive game for him. It is a huge, huge opportunity for him to get back into the groove of things. Like, this is a guy that was supposed to be the starter for the Toronto Maple Leafs and just hasn't been able to stay healthy at all. So it's a big opportunity for him to allow this Leafs team to have belief in him that he's going to be able to not even be a starter, but even keep pace and be a 1A, 1B right now.
He's confirmed right now. Actually, while we're talking about goalies, let's roll through them. Habs at Washington. And of course, the Habs, after getting just absolutely torched by the Kraken in their last game, will look to get back at it. Caden Primo is going to get the start against Charlie Lindgren for Washington. And the Caps have had a really nice start, actually. I think they've won 6 of their last 7. Joey Decord is likely. We saw him last week when the Jets beat the Kraken. He was awesome. I think he's their clear-cut number 1. Grubauer gets in at times. They gave Grubauer a bunch of money, but Joey's now got the contract. I think he'll be going forward. And yes, the Wall, Joseph Woll in net for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Ducks at Penguins. I don't think it'll be a surprise. It's unconfirmed for Lucas Dostal, but he's a sleeper goalie, Pat. I mean, they're going to win some games this year, and I think we'll look back and go, oh, man, their goalie stole one. And Alex Nedeljkovic, or Nedeljkovic. I don't know. I just call him Ned. He's in for Pittsburgh. That is confirmed right now. St. Louis and Philly, Binnington and Samuel Urson. We mentioned Calvin Pickard in for the Oilers. UC Saros is unconfirmed right now. Battle of the lottery teams, Mrazek and Blackwood, San Jose and Chicago. But maybe the most interesting game tonight, Pat, is this Boston-Carolina game. Jeremy Swayman's confirmed for the Bruins. Kochetkov likely for the Carolina Hurricanes. And this Boston team, we heard Charlie McAvoy talk about it a little earlier this week. This is not a start like they've had in the past. They have lost. They pulled that OT win out of their ass basically last week. If they don't win that one, they'll have lost 5 in a row. They followed that up by being shut out at home by the Philadelphia Flyers. And then before the win over the Leafs, they lost to the Stars. They've been shut out by the Predators. They lost to Utah, beat the Avs, and then they lost the Panthers before. So they've lost 5 of their last 7. And they're taking on a Canes team that just steamrolled through the West. They had a 6-game road trip. They ended up going 5-6. The only blemish was a loss, and I believe it may have been OT against St. Louis. But they beat the Oilers, Flames, Kraken, Canucks. However, finishing on the far on the West Coast, traveling back, getting back home after 2 weeks on the road, that first game always seems to be a little sketchy. And I would imagine they're going to be seeing a desperate Boston team right now that I think is needing to play with some urgency that belies their sub 500 start.
I hate betting on the Boston Bruins, but this seems like a Bruins spot. I think we're going to be able to tell what kind of Boston Bruins team this is. And I mean, just based off the start, based off the team on paper, this isn't as good as a Bruins team that we've seen in years past. But with that culture inside that locker room, with what they've done over the last few years, these games are the games that they come out with victories when they absolutely need it. Their back's against the wall. And like you said it, time and time again, we have seen teams from the East or even teams from the West, when they come back from coming in that first home game, there is always a letdown spot. And the Bruins have no time to allow Carolina get their feet sunk in and get settled in. Like, they're going to have to come out firing here. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a big game for Pasta and Marchand. I really think I like the Bruins here. I don't know if I'm going to bet it because I don't even know if my body will allow me to do it, but at plus 153, this looks like a lot of value on a team that is desperate for a victory, get some confidence back into that lineup. And Carolina, a team that's coasting. And as mentioned, Freddie Anderson not in the game tonight, like you said. So he's out for a bit. I think it's just a minor injury, but this Kochetkov kid has been pretty good as well. 3-1 record. 2.76. So that kind of is a bit concerning, but it's his second straight game. He's coming off that road trip as well. This seems to me like a big letdown spot for the Hurricanes.
Certainly, I think there's a reason to like that number. Here's where Rod Z's got, and this is a great Rod Z stat. Bet on Jim Montgomery in away or neutral games after one or more consecutive unders. Montgomery's record as coach of Boston, 38-9. That's a wild one. But again, it says something about, you shut out, you get right back at it and actually make that happen. I don't mind Boston tonight, actually, on the slate. And I think, if we're looking at a couple of other games to throw in with those, if you're starting off with plus 153, you can then sort of get into a couple other areas that are good. Either that, or we go with the two dogs and throw the Oilers in here. I mean, the Oilers, And listen, we talked about this right off the top. I mean, they got to get things done without Connor McDavid, and they're going into a place where they've had an incredible amount of success. No one more so than Leon Draisaitl. I see Rod's going on a Zach Hyman point to potentially 2 points at more than 3-1. But again, I think I'll be back in the Oilers tonight at plus 113. Being far, far away from that Blackhawks Sharks game, I wouldn't want to have any reason to have to watch that one. And then, you've got Pittsburgh at home to Anaheim. Pittsburgh's been very, very spotty and unreliable so far this year. The Leafs, the underdog, has won the last 4 games that they've been in, like on one side or the other. They've been winning as an underdog. They've been losing as a favorite. And then the Washington Capitals are at home to Montreal. I mean, I don't mind them at all in this spot. I just don't like the number at basically minus 200. So I think maybe we'll just fire a couple single bullets. Either that or we want to just put the Bruins and Oilers in a 2-gamer that'll probably be with a boost above 5-1.
Yeah, I think if we want to get a little bit cute, you could throw in a Caps or you could throw in a Leafs. I'm sure folks would probably prefer the Capitals in that spot. This also feels like us maybe we were on the Canadians 1 game too soon, and this is a game that they come out and knock off a red hot Caps team. So I think, we got 2+ monies, 2 dogs. I would not be opposed with rolling with the road dogs here. It's at plus 439. Like you said, after the boost, it's probably 400, and it's a 2-gamer. And let's not forget, we still got Thursday night football to sprinkle on as well. I'm okay with a 2-gamer.
So what I'm thinking, okay, let's do, this is a rare double play, but we're going to go with 2 road plus money underdogs, Boston at plus 153, and ESTers, we're going to ride with your Oilers at plus 113. There's a lot of great props and single game action that you can get into on that as well. So we'll pop that up probably in the combo cards or the exclusives at some point going forward. But let's get to it, Pat. This is this game, this line, everything about it is we've got a 6-2 team that is laying 2 points. Getting 2 points against a 2-6 team. On the surface, the line doesn't make sense at all. But man, are the Texans banged up right now. No Nico Collins, now no Stephon Diggs. It's going to be the Tank Dell show. And then potentially John Mechie, Hutchinson. Who is it? Robert Woods, the other guy in the mix. To me, the one thing I'll say this, I think we're going to see a lot of Joe Mixon tonight. And the one thing from the get-go that has been so disappointing amongst many things that have been disappointing with the New York Jets this year is their vaunted defense has absolutely evaporated against the run. Game 1 of the season, Monday Night Football, Jordan Mason ran it down their throats, and they had absolutely no answer for that. Now, the Niners are really good on the ground. They do that often. But that hasn't really changed throughout this entire year right now. And for a team, this is going to be a great test of them because they know what's coming. The Houston Texans like to run the ball, and especially when they're in the red zone, they run the ball in, and Joe Mixon is the guy that does it. So, I mean, the Mixon TD score in this game is minus 149. So, I mean, it tells you what you need to know. He's the most likely guy to do it. And then on the other side, we've got Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this team coming off these losses, they lose to Pittsburgh, they get Devontae Adams, they lose last week, and then, losing to the Patriots. They have the same record as the Patriots right now. This team was supposed to be in the Super Bowl hunt. The Patriots were supposed to be the worst team in the entire league. So they've gotten there in very different situations. But 2 points laying for the Jets just seems hard to wrap my head around. Where are you at this one?
You know what? This is the ultimate fisherman Jake Bullenmoss spot.
Yes.
He would be telling us, and I know he said it. He already talked. You guys talked about it when he was on the program on Tuesday. This is a fishy line. But for me, I'm eating the cheese. I'm taking the cheese. If it is a rat line, I don't care. I am just not putting my hard-earned money on the New York Jets. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. I don't care how banged up this receiving core is for the Texans. One team is 6-2 and still, even with the injuries, a better team than this historically bad, underperforming, underachieving circus that is the New York Jets. I'm sorry. Yes, and you nailed it. This Jets secondary, they lock teams down. They do not allow much in the air. But when it comes to the ground game, they are getting just ran down their throats, smashed in the face. And that plays right into hand. There is no script here unless the Jets just finally playing well and finding a way to win and come out with a victory. And I'll come on tomorrow's show and say, hands up, I was on the wrong side. I am not coming on tomorrow's show and saying, hey, guys, I bet on the Jets again, and I've lost money. I'm not doing it. I'm wearing a cowboy hat. I'm rolling with the Texans tonight. I bet it on Tuesday. I thought the number would move. It hasn't even moved, which kind of scares me even more, but I can't do it. I'm not betting on this Jets team. I'm sorry, Huss. I'm not doing it.
I am. I don't know. Listen, everything in my being is telling me just either stay away, but I'm not going to on a Thursday nighter. Listen, they have to get this win. I mean, we've said that for the last couple of weeks and they haven't done it. But I mean, this is I think in most cases, it's terrible to be playing on Thursday night and the level of everything is down a little bit. But I think for them to get right back out there after that embarrassment against New England might actually be a positive for them. They're back at home. They haven't been as much this year. And Aaron Rodgers, as much as he is an diva, attention-seeking weirdo, he can still chuck it. And I think now that they've got these other weapons, they're going to be – and the Texans' pass defense is not elite by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm giving Aaron Rodgers one more shot. I still don't think the Jets are a playoff team or anything like that. But, I mean, if they go to 2-7 right now, then you're – has anyone ever been traded twice in the matter of 3 weeks? And can they flip Devontae Adams if they lose this game again? Because – basically, they'll be worse than the Raiders, where he came from right now. I might just go with the -127 on the money line and put that with some other things. But when it comes to the spread pick, I am going to hold my nose and lay the points. And to me, this does come down, and I guess we should get into it. I'm sure you'll have a primetime parlay, and we can talk about. I mean, I'm loving the over field goals for today. With the exception of the fact that Greg the Leg is one of the kickers in here. And if I said this earlier, if Sergio Castillo, who's kicking for the Bombers, was back kicking for the New York Jets, where he did have a cup of coffee this year, they're 4-4 at worst and potentially 5-3. So they have been in these close games. I mean, Zerline, I would think, has to get it done. But I'm going to lay the points. I'm going to take the Jets. I love the kicking prop, and when I'm right now, I'm kind of focusing on the rushing props right now. Their number is 80.5.
Yep.
I think I'm still taking the over on that one, and I know we spend a lot of time talking about Breece Hall for obvious reasons. The guy that I actually like tonight in this case is Braden Allen. He's been stealing 10, 12 touches a game from Breece Hall, and the number for Allen is just 20.5 right now. He's such a young player, Patty. I think he gets better every time he gets into the game. So I'm kind of focusing in on a couple of these rushing props outside of the total. What attracts you when we come to all of our prop opportunities?
There's a lot. You already mentioned the field goals. Jake threw out a great tweet from our social on, I believe, Tuesday. 16-12 now, the over 3.5 field goals prop on the season. And it's been the most successful on Thursday night at 5-3. So hopefully that trend does continue here. And I agree. Yeah, of course. Greg the Leg is certainly concerning for sure, but Fairbairn is one of the best kickers in the game. I think he could hit the 4 by himself, to be quite honest. I don't think the Texans are going to be able to move the ball as easily as they have in previous games this season because of all the injuries. So I think there's going to be more opportunities, though they might not go for it on fourth down as much as they normally would. They might just take the points. So I like that. You mentioned Mixon over 80.5 yards, no doubt. I think it's going to be a busy Halloween for this guy. I totally agree. Just one quick note, like he's in games that he has been fully healthy for, or at least played a full game, he hasn't rushed for less than 102. So I feel fully confident that the fact that Stroud doesn't have as many weapons as normal, I could absolutely see this being 100, over 180 is no problem that we could sail over that. That being said, on an under that I'm kind of interested in, and I might bet, CJ Stroud under 21.5 passing yards. And that is a low total for him, but no Collins, no Diggs, as we mentioned. The Jets are awful on the run, but their secondary is still very strong. So they only give up 161.1 yards per game. That's the second best in the NFL. That's remarkable. I think if there's one thing that you can hang your hat on if you're the Jets, it's their secondary and the way that they're able to wrap up a lot of these, big wide receivers. So I probably will take the under on his passing yards. And then the two tight ends. Schultz over 4.5 receptions. You're actually getting plus money on that. And Conklin over 2.5 receptions. Quickly on Schultz, when we saw Collins go down the very next game, he had 8 targets, 5 catches. I think the trend continues with Diggs being out there. I think he's going to be more involved. Jake mentioned it on Tuesday that was something that he was going to circle. So I think I'm going to get that as well for him to get those 5 receptions. And Conklin only 2.5. And I know there's so many other targets, so many more weapons with the Jets. You mentioned it. The secondary is not great or elite by their standpoint with this Texans defense. But one thing that they really do is get pressure on the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers can't really move around like we once saw him able to. I think he's going to have to get the ball out quick. So looking at maybe some receptions from the running backs, or you look at Conklin, who on average is averaging about 3 receptions per game. So it's a little bit juicier. I think it's like minus 140 something. So maybe putting that into a parlay, maybe it ends up on my card for Patty's parlay, but those are the props that I'm definitely looking at. And of course, obviously you mentioned it, the Mixon touchdown, minus 140-ish. That's a little bit too rich for my blood, but I probably will put it somewhere in a parlay because not only the fact of the matter is that this team just does not have the weapons that they would like to use in the red zone. Even when they are healthy, they're running the ball in the end zone. And the Jets have given up already 10 rushing touchdowns this season.
Yeah, I mean, Mixon's the guy in the red zone. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The over 80.5 rushing yards is minus 110. I actually like what you just laid out about the CJ Stroud under passing yards. Which kind of correlates with a bigger night of rushing. And then, I mean, we could go with just a Texan-based parlay if we want to take the over on Joe Mixon, the under on CJ Stroud passing yards, and then one of those other player props. And to be honest, the one that I think is a nice number that I'm sort of with you on is this Dalton Schultz. Without those other weapons available who get so much of the target, the balls are going to have to go elsewhere when he is throwing the football. And to get plus 125 on over 4.5, I mean, I guess we could go to over 3.5, but again, that's a big difference. But again, I think I'm confident enough that the Jets will be able to put some points on the board, and they won't just be able to hand it off to Joe Mixon and call it a night and win the football game. So I'm sort of in on that. But I mean, like the ones that we started off, the under on the CJ Stroud passing and the over on Joe Mixon, I think is a nice start. I know heavy the Jets side of things.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if they're, I mean, you like that. What was the other? You did lay out one of them. Who was it? Wasn't Breece Hall. It was, Allen.
No, Braylon Allen.
Do you want to go with Braylon Allen over the rushing yards maybe there? So that at least we're not, because you are on the Jets side. So I don't want to have you too fully invested in.
I mean, I would just say let's throw the field goals, but I know the field goals will be part of the primetime parlay.
I have no problem handing over the field goal prop because I'm going to be riding this, and there is more than enough that I like on this board. I could build my own Texan parlay if I wanted to, so I will gladly give the lock shoppers hand over the 3.5 field goals for our parlay. I have no problem doing that at all. Well, consider it a Halloween treat, not a trick.
Well, we're plus 612 if we want to go the over on the Mixon rushing yards, the under on the Stroud passing yards, and the field goals. Just straight up there. Those three. I mean, I think that we locked that in. And then, and the one thing that I was looking that's actually not up right now, that I'm going to be looking at. I'm interested to know what the number is, because we've got Aaron Rodgers completions, we've got Aaron Rodgers picks, Aaron Rodgers passing yards. The one thing we don't have is touchdown passes. And if it's a half decent number on the over 1.5, I think I'll probably get a piece of that. That'll be sort of my Jets thing, and that'll be an individual one. The CJ Stroud numbers, we mentioned we're going under on the yards. Over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Stroud is plus 165. His completions is 20.5. And the interceptions is minus 110 on either side, over a half. The Rodgers pick is plus 110. But for the partner parlay, we're going to go with the 3.5 field goals, which is actually minus 105, which is about the lowest number we've seen on it all year long, but it does make sense. Under on Stroud passing, under 221. And Joe Mixon over 80.5. Obviously, we're going to dive into all of the NFL stuff. Do you want to quickly just run through the exclusives that we've got that are already up there that you and Jake and the rest of the team have put together?
Yeah, absolutely. It is Halloween, so we figured we had to get some spooky names here. So Mixon a potion, Joe Mixon to record 100+ rushing yards and reception yards. So that's 100 rush and reception yards combined. 1 touchdown scored, and the Texans to win plus 325.
If you like Houston to win this game, Houston to win this game, this is a hell of a bet. I've been kind of going back and forth. If Houston wins this game, I can almost assure you, famous last words, that Mixon's getting combined 100 yards and getting into the end zone, like we said.
I think he should have 100 rushing yards. Never mind the reception yards. Yeah. I love this bet here. The Adams family, Devonta Adams, 50+ receiving yards, 1 TD scored, and the Jets to win. The Thursday night graveyard, which is normally our Thursday night snooze fest. Texans Jets to have under 42.5 points and 3.5 field goals made at plus 400. The New York Nightmare, CJ Stroud to have 2 passing TDs, Tank Dell 50 receiving yards, and Houston to win the game at plus 600. Tankenstein's Monster, Tank Dell, 5+ receptions and 1 touchdown scored with the Houston Texans to win at plus 625. And then Creepy Crawlers, Breece Hall and Joe Mixon, both to record 70+ rushing yards and 1+ touchdown at plus 675. Huss, I've talked to the guys for some reason, not too sure why, but that Aaron Rodgers passing number is down. They'll get it back up. And we'll maybe, I don't know if it's going to be before we sign off in a couple of minutes here, but check back. That will be there. A couple other quick combo cards as well. We've got the Haunted House Calls. That is a Hall, Wilson, and Mixon touchdown plus 660. That's boosted all the way up to 613. Bobbing for apples. This is our apples picking season parlay. Crosby, Marner, and Leon Draisaitl all to record an assist. That's at plus 467. Frightening fades. The Predators to lose to the Oilers. The Jets to lose to Houston, and the Jazz to lose to the Spurs. So you're fading the favorites at plus 926. Bewitched, which is points from the point. Gostisbehere, Matheson, and Bouchard all to record a point, plus 640. The Jack-O-Lanterns, Austin Matthews and Alexander Ovechkin and Zach Hyman, all to find the back of the net. That is plus 1222. And that is it for our combo cards. We'll also have our partner parlay up there. I'm going to have a Patty's Patty's primetime parlay. We'll also have an NHL partner parlay as well. So check back in a few minutes, folks. We got a lot.
Edmonton and Boston, which is probably going to be around 5-1, just both money line. Both are plus money dogs. There is an EST parlay. If you haven't checked that one out, listen, you know what? Leon Draisaitl shows up in Nashville. It's a Draisaitl goal. 3 shots on goal for Jeff Skinner. Bouchard, 2+ shots on goal, and the Oilers to win plus 725. And I will tell you, going through those, I'm going to be on our partner parlay for the football game and for the hockey. I love, being a guy that if I'm going with the Jets, this Adams family, 50+ yards for Davante Adams and a touchdown and the Jets to win. Count me in on that at plus 375. I am locked in for that.
Huss, I spoke too soon. Ev Dog, friend of the program. He already got it back up. So Rodgers over 1.5 touchdowns plus 110, and the under is down to minus 133.
Excellent. All right. Plus money on that. I like it. I'll be getting a touch on that as well. So yeah, tomorrow, huge show. Listen, get well, Dusty. I know he's doing everything he can to be in that booth for the big CFL playoff game that he'll be calling between the Riders and the Lions at Mosaic on Saturday. Just quickly on the way out, and I'll give you a couple picks on this tomorrow. Toronto's a 6.5-point favorite against Ottawa in the East semi on Saturday. And then the game that I cannot wait to see, Dusty will be calling it as long as he can get off the deathbed. Saskatchewan laying 3 at home to BC. They beat them by 31 just a couple weeks ago, but now it's Vernon Adams instead of Nathan Rourke. A lot to talk about this. And actually, if you're interested in that game, especially you members of the Rider Nation, we're going to have Jamie Nye from Regina on today on WST. First of all, to find out how the act of God and the leaf tornado that helped the Bombers somehow win on Saturday, how that went over in Saskatchewan, and how they're getting ready for the game as well. Patty, happy trick-or-treating. Looking good. The Phil Rivers costume is the best. the bolo tie. All you need is 11 or 12 kids following you around, and maybe get a little Charger blue on there. Folks, thanks for hanging out with us. I know you guys will be doing it all in the Discord. And as Rod Z says, happy Halloween. That is a must bet. Enjoy, everyone. Thursday night football. Oilers, we're all pulling for the Oilers tonight and the Bruins in the partner parlay. And tomorrow, lock it in with us for the best bets in the National Football League heading into week 9. Of course, it's all at Coolbet. If you haven't played there before, use the promo code LOCKSHOP for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And make sure you join us tomorrow for our NFL best bets heading into the weekend. For Pat Gregoire, I'm Andrew Paterson. We'll turn it back to EST. Have a happy Halloween, and we'll see you tomorrow in the Lock Shop.